We are so excited. I'm Nia Heidel, and I am the Vice President of Alliance Engagement and Institutional Transformation at Complete College America. And what that means is that I work with our strategy team to make sure that we're supporting our Alliance members and our partners in their work around student success and college completion, and then also lead some work that we do with the Gates Foundation around institutional transformation. And I am just extremely excited to be here this morning with you and with our colleagues from Lumina Foundation, who you'll meet in just a minute, to talk to you about this amazing opportunity we have for predominantly and historically Black community colleges. Before we get started, we're going to ask folks to, in the chat, if you would just say who you are, what institution you're from, and what your what your role is on a campus. We'd love to just get a sense of who's here, and yeah, so that's it. If you would do that, we love it. Throughout our presentation, also, as we're going, we'll have time for questions at the end. But if there's a question or something comes up, please feel free to put those questions in the chat, or even just to raise your hand to let us know, to ask the questions so that we can clarify those things. Okay. So Nicholas, before we even start, what we wanted to know is and of course my dog starts to bark as soon as we start, so I apologize for the noise. Before we start, we want to know, with all the things competing for your time, you chose to give us an hour to talk about this project, and so we would really want to know if you put it in the chat, and then also maybe a couple of people will volunteer to talk to us about why it is that you are interested or excited. What excites you about this project from what you know and what you've read? I may call on a friend that I see on my screen. Ms. Scott?
How did I know that I was the friend that you were referring to? So first, it's great to be with everyone this morning. For me, there's several reasons why I'm here and excited about this. One, I'll be honest, I was not aware that there wasn't a network for predominantly Black community colleges and historically Black community colleges. And the fact that this is an opportunity to create such a safe space and network for these institutions is on top of my list. It's one of my reasons why. And the other is just because they're so critical to the ecosystem of post-secondary learning, especially for adult learners who are looking for ways to be re-engaged. I feel like it's more, institutions offer more of support and pathways versus them trying to go right into a four-year institution. And so I can go on, but to me, those are my top two. It's just knowing that there's an opportunity for this network to be created to provide this cross-sharing and cross-learning safe space for these institutions of likeness, and as well as just making sure that adult learners know that this is truly a pathway that exists for them.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so you've met me and Nicholas, and we're your CCA team. And let me tell you a little bit about who CCA is, in case you're not familiar. We're a national nonprofit, and we are focused on improving college completion rates for students who have typically been left behind in the college completion movement, and also supporting institutions that have not always been included in the efforts, as well as who have been under-resourced and maybe who do not get the same type of shine that other institutions get. Our president is Dr. Yolanda Watson-Spiva, who you see, and we have her up there because we think it's important for our partners to understand how we are viewing our work. She is an HBCU grad. She's worked at different levels of with this nonprofit, institutional, and also for the Department of Education. And she has a commitment to social justice and equity. And so because she is our leader, this is how we do our work and how we are embracing this work with institutions and with partners. Our staff has vast experiences, small, large, private, public, HBCUs, two-year institutions, all types of institutions. And that is important for us because we want you to know that we are leading this work with lived experiences. And that's how we embrace the challenges that we are facing in the college completion movement, and also addressing the needs of institutions, partners, and also students. And then we are bold advocates. So we have a number of publications that are open access that provide information about how we need to disrupt systems that have contributed to systemic inequities across various populations. Our mission is one that states that we are a bold advocate for dramatically increasing college completion rates. And so we are focused, next slide, please. We are focused on the institutional performance gaps. So we shifted from achievement gaps because that suggests that there's a deficiency for students. But really what we're saying is that students are not succeeding, that there's some type of structural barrier that usually exists that contributes to them not being able to succeed. We know that life happens, but our responsibility is to make sure that we include structural reforms that promote policies that can improve student success. We have an alliance. This is how we do our work. So we have an alliance of 48 members, and we're usually working at the system and state level, again, because we're looking at structural barriers, but we do quite a bit of institutional work. And what this project is based in the institution, but also will impact policy and practice. And so what this alliance does, it provides opportunities for us to share and collaborate and build networks so that our partners are not recreating things every time they're trying to do things. And so and as a part of this project, you'll see that we would draw on the successes that we have experienced across this alliance to be able to support the institutions who are working on this project. So our model is that we are focused on three areas: the alliance through policy, practice, and perspective. And so perspective, how are we looking at these challenges? And so when you look at this project, we're going to be looking at what are the specific needs of adult students of color. So what is their perspective? Also, what is the institutional perspective as it relates to being able to support these students? Then what are the practices that are being executed now? And then what are best practices that are out there that could better support the students' needs? And then policy. So as I've mentioned before, policy is really where we are able to disrupt some of these systemic inequities and be able to create sustainable processes in order to keep the movement that we have generated going. So all of that is in the effort of increasing college completion so that students have opportunities for increased economic and social mobility and racial justice. So it's not just about graduating, it is about making sure they're graduating with credentials of value so that their life circumstance can be improved by the academic process that they have experienced. And now I'm going to hand over to Dr. Amber Garrison Duncan and Wayne Teleferro from Lumina Foundation.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining us this morning, and hope you all are doing well. I know things have been crazy. Some of you may have experienced a hurricane in the last week, or certainly the fallout from rain. So hope you're just all safe and well. And again, thank you for making time for us. So I just wanted to share a little bit about Lumina so that you're aware of, if you're not already aware, who we are. We're the nation's largest private foundation focused solely on higher education. And all of our efforts go to Goal 2025, which is based on projections of understanding of what is it that Americans are going to need to be able to access living wages and have thriving lives. And in order to do that, we we know that by 2025, at least 60% of Americans will need to have a high quality post-secondary credential in order to access the jobs that they need. And so everything that we do, again, is centered around that. We do this thinking about getting to the goal with two key components in mind: quality and equity go hand in hand. And so wanted to share just how we define quality, what a quality credential is. And I'll just start with what's a credential. Is at Lumina, we use that broadly to think about the array of credentials in the marketplace. That includes degrees, that includes industry certifications, that includes certificates. But what we're counting when those are high quality is when they lead to further education and further employment. It's clear that our social mobility and economic mobility ladders are tied to education and employment. So we want to make sure that whatever credential people are getting, it provides those two things. When we think about equity on the next slide, and again, that quality and equity go hand in hand, is that Lumina has an equity first commitment. And we believe that equity will be achieved when outcomes cannot be predicted by race, ethnicity, and that justice will be achieved when the root causes of those inequities are eliminated. And so we really feel firmly that, again, in this commitment to getting to the goal with quality, that in achieving outcomes for people of color must be the mission of this work and the focus of all of our work. And so every grant that we administer is making sure that we're thinking about what Black, Latino, and Native American learners need in this country, and that systemic barriers are eliminated, and that we're making sure that fair and just outcomes are accomplished through our work, which led us to really getting into and wanting to be able to think about the role of predominantly Black community colleges and historically Black community colleges, and led us to CCA and having a conversation about the project here. So Nia, I will kick that back over to you.
Yes, and thanks, Amber. And I want to say that the commitment that Amber, Wayne, and Lumina have provided to this project is amazing, and it's going to be transformational. And when Amber was trying to figure out how to best support a population of students who have not necessarily had consistent supports, the PBCCs and HBCCs came to mind. And then they said to us, we really want to do something to uplift this sector of higher education in a couple of different ways. One, we want to be sure that we're not coming in telling people what they need to do. We want to make sure that we are engaging participants and institutions in a process of identifying what they believe is going to best serve their students. And then also we want to create a network, because largely, just like Chandra had mentioned earlier, many people don't realize that there's a whole network and a whole community of predominantly Black and historically Black community colleges. And so you all are doing some great work. And when we look at the 12 historically Black community colleges and 32 predominantly Black community colleges, like those institutions by themselves are educating 10% of all Black students in the country, in the two-year sector. That's huge, right? And so how do we take the successes that you have and help to enhance them, but also share the learnings with other institutions who are also serving these populations of students, so that we can give you all some shine. I don't know how to say it any other way, but to really elevate your work and make sure that people understand how you're contributing to the ecosystem. So we know that with the goal that Lumina has, challenged the higher education world to accomplish, there is no way really to do that unless we are very intentional about making sure that we are including first generation students from low income backgrounds, and students of color. And as I said before, you all are educating and providing access to so many students who fall within these categories. It only makes sense for us to say, let's invest in this space and see what we can do to support the efforts that they have. So with this project, it's a 2-year project, and we have 4 primary goals. And I'm not going to read them to you. We'll go through them in details, but it's a lot that we know that we're trying to accomplish. But we think that if we can do these 4 things in a concentrated way, that we can make really good progress. So goal 1, identifying pathways. So the idea of pathways is it depends on who you're talking to, what it looks like. But what we're talking about is a student comes in with an idea and a plan, and how do we make sure that the system, the structure doesn't impede their ability to work their plan? And looking at, is there a clear understanding of what they're wanting to accomplish and the path that they're going on? Do they align? Do we have classes that meet their life needs? So sometimes we have programs where students come in on their weekend hours and virtual and night hours, and then they get to the third semester and everything is Monday, Friday, 9 to 5. Well, that's not what they signed up for, and then all of a sudden they have a barrier that they can't complete. Or maybe the life happens, and so if life happens, is there something in this program that allows them to walk away with some type of credential of value in the midst of a stop out, so that it's not time lost? So how are we creating our academic programs to support all of those different things, and then to make sure that we have opportunities for students to transition into to complete 2-year programs and then into 4-year programs if they desire to do that? Our second goal is about optimizing outcomes. So what are the supports that students need in order to be successful? And when we talk about adult learners, that is flexibility and scheduling, that may be childcare or coaching or different types of things. So what are we doing to be able to make sure that all these supports are embedded in their programs along the way, so that they're not having to figure this out on their own? And then we will provide technical assistance to help figure those things out and align academic programs, career choice. And when we talk about workforce needs, it's important that the career that most students who are in 2-year spaces are not, they're not necessarily like coming in from another state. They're in their region or in their area. So the degree plans that they're pursuing, do they match the market value and the workforce needs of the area? And if they don't, what does that mean for the student? And making sure that everybody is clear on what those things are. Then goal number 3 is strengthening data capacity. So at Lumina and CCA are both very committed to data. And the reason why is because we've all, like Wayne, Amber, Nicholas, and I have all worked on the college campus. So there are things that you just feel, and you know that this is happening because we feel this, which is good because intuition is good. But what we need really are the numbers so we can make sure that what we're perceiving to be the causes of different things are actually the causes. And we want to see how students in different demographics are performing in different ways. And so data is really, really critical to this conversation. And what we're looking at, we're going to provide some support in helping the institutions to look at their data, to make sure that their data is clean and that that their team has the capacity to disaggregate the data. So it's not just about making sure you have the tools, but making sure that we strengthen in the infrastructure around data capacity so that your team is able to use the data and apply the data in ways that are going to be beneficial to your institution. And then number 4 is building the network. So I think this is the one that Amber and I are probably the most excited about. Everything is exciting, but this one is really exciting because what this one will allow us to do is to develop, a leadership development program so we can identify people on your campuses, faculty, staff who are doing amazing work around student success that we are able to further develop and then put out there as experts for the larger higher education ecosystem. We have a learning management system, so there'll be resources that are put there for you all to share amongst each other, we're not always recreating stuff. And then also the opportunity for us to be able to elevate, whether that's presentations or articles or blog posts or whatever that is. But we want people to know the work that you're doing and how it's impacting students and that they can replicate it on their campuses for the same population of students. So the model that we have right now is we're going to have a cohort model. But the cohort model is going to be organized in a couple of different ways. It makes sense in lots of spaces to have a geographic cohort model because if you're wanting to meet or do things together, the transportation and all that stuff is a little bit easier. but also we're going to have communities of practice. And what those are, because you might be, if you're in Louisiana, you might have something in common with the institution that's in Detroit, because maybe you're both in urban centers, right? And you have large populations of students who have a certain demographic. So if you're addressing or working a strategy that's similar, you will be in a community of practice together. So we'll and it's not going to be CCA and Lumina saying this is where you need to be. What we're going to focus on is, okay, what's the plan? What do you think you need? And then matching people so that not exactly like speed dating, but maybe kind of, so that we can put you together, and then we can have opportunities for you all to share based on where you live, and then also based on like what you're trying to focus on. And then, like I said, the learning management system will be an opportunity for that. And I think that that's going to be very helpful, because with it, everything can be contained. You know how we get 1 million emails a day? So this way, resources will be in one space, and you'll just be able to go there and look for what you need and access it. Now, so the next steps for us are, Nicholas will drop in the chat application. Now, we recognize that everybody who is on the call might not be able to commit the institution, but even if you're just interested, we would love for you to fill it out so we can know if you're interested. If we need to reach out to your president or provost, we're more than happy to do that as well. Every team will need an institutional lead and a team. So the lead is going to be the person who's working with us on a frequent basis to make sure that we understand where you are, what you need. We can provide support for that. And then also, we want you to select someone who could be in the leadership development program. So we're going to have this will be our inaugural cohort of institutional leadership development. So we would love for every institution to identify one person. If somebody can't, which will be very shocking to me, if somebody can't, though, we'll just give your spot to somebody else. But it would be great to have a representative from every institution. And with that, we're going to have mentors and really, I think, like some very large figures within the higher education world around retention and finance and all kinds of things, who will come in and talk with this cohort to get to share the things that they've learned and answer questions and those types of things. And then we just need you to commit to attending the workshops. Now, I've been on the campus, so I'm not going to say this isn't any work, because it is going to be a little bit of work. But the goal is for us to intertwine this with the things that you're already doing, so it doesn't become burdensome. And it enhances the work that you're doing, and we're providing support. And then the other part of it is that it may be a slightly heavy lift on the beginning but as we move forward, your processes and protocols and all those things will become such that it's a much easier lift. So we'll have a little bit of heavier lift on the front end, but even when we're gone, your things will be a lot smoother and easier for you, moving forward. And the last thing I forgot to mention is that with this project, there's opportunities for us to have direct financial support to institutions. So we're going to have technical assistance where we have people coming in to work with you. But then as we're working through this, there might be something that you need. So we're working on data, and you say, if we just had this one little thing that costs like whatever, then it will make everything a little bit easier. Then this project will allow us to be able to support some of those types of efforts as well, to make this whole process a lot easier for you. And okay, so creating a profile. This is important to because we would like for you to create a profile because the stuff that we're talking about, a lot of the tools that we have, the resources are actually on our website, but in order to get access to them, you have to have a profile. And as we are continuing to put more information around this project and other student success, initiatives, we will put all that stuff on the CCA website. And then that is all for us. We want you to stay connected. I didn't talk about our timeline. So the timeline that we're asking everyone to submit your survey your application is by September 17th. And let me just clarify one thing. When I say application, it's not laborious. So it's not, a 10-page RFP. really what we're trying to get is basic information about why you want to participate in this project, what's your student information system, what type of data, support do you have, so we can have a better sense of where you would fit in the project, and just to make sure that the things that you're trying to accomplish at your institution that align with what this project is, so that there's just like some cohesion between your needs and the project. So that's really what it is, not to make it really hard for you to apply. So do we have questions? So the recording, we'll have it by tomorrow. We should have it by tomorrow. And Nicholas will send it out via email to everyone who was registered.
And this is a meeting, not a webinar. So feel free to unmute yourself if you have questions. Want to make sure that, this is the beginning of the network and the beginning of the community. So feel free to unmute, ask questions, comments.
I got a question. This is Kyle Wagner, president of Northeastern Technical College. So basically our next steps, I like it like bullet points. Our next step is we need to go to www.completecollege.org, fill out the Survey Monkey, and that's our application to participate. And then from there, we need to identify one leader in the project team, and the project team that will lead it on our institution. And then we need, from that team or that project leader, we need to select the leadership person that will participate in the development program. And then we also do the Survey Monkey at https://SurveyMonkey.r and then those initials, correct?
Well, everything except for the CompleteCollege.org is not the application. The Survey Monkey one is the application.
Okay.
The CompleteCollege.org is just so you can have access to information as we continue to update.
Okay. So
That's correct.
The Complete College profile is so we can have a profile with you guys, so you can contact us and all that. The Survey Monkey is the application to participate in the program.
Yes, sir.
And in the application, we are asking to identify the leader at the institution. So the person that we will connect with the first time, and we can work with that institutional lead to identify who are based on the priorities, based on what we want to focus on at your institution, who are the best people on campus to work on this particular project, to connect with other institutions and so on and so forth. So I don't think we need to have a full team right now. I think that we'll work with the team lead to basically identify those folks on your campus, and again, who's on your campus. So we'll just, based on your priorities, based on the strategies, that's where it's from. So definitely the application first, the identifying the team lead, which is part of the application, creating a profile on our website. Those are the first next steps that we would ask.
Okay, so on the project lead and the team, how many people do you want to recommend on the team? Do you want 3, 4, 6? I've got 2 initiatives that I want to put this into. So one is our dual enrollment program, and the other one is our Snap to Work credit varying program, which allows people that are on Snap to Work programs to come in and take college level credit. Mm-hmm. And those are the 2 areas that we really want to focus these resources into. So then I want members from each of those teams that working those projects, or do you have is it 2, 3, 4? What do you see as your experience as a good sized team?
I would say probably 3 to 5.
3 to 5, okay.
I mean, that's what I would say.
And ideally, obviously, that it depends on how those particular projects are already on the way, like who's working on this. So ideally, it would not just be, and I know I'm talking to those particular people on the call right now, not just VPs and provosts, but advising director or academic advisors, or someone from the career services, if you have, or someone who is making the connection and talking to students on a daily basis. I think that it's really important, especially when we're talking to a 2-year timeline, that we need to start talking to the folks, and the folks who are on the ground and meeting with the students are involved as soon as possible, so that there's no the trickling down of information. I think usually takes a bit of time. So we want to make sure that those who are in charge with implementation hear about this project, are connected with it as soon as possible.
Yeah, you said you wanted to get a working team, not a team that just has meetings. So I was picking people on the low end, on the very my bases that meet with my students.
Perfect. Great. And we can provide, again, like the first meeting we'll have with the institutional lead. I think that's something that we're going to be talking about, definitely about the team, like who is the best folks on your campus. We'll definitely make recommendations in terms of, although roles more than titles, because obviously titles change at every institution, but we'll definitely talk about those types of how to create your team, who's your best team, who are the best leaders on your campus that you can involve. And I like the idea. I think that goes very well with what Nia was saying, is that you're already doing great work, and this is not meant to, to add another thing. If anything, it complements and supplement what you're already doing. So we're pretty, and that's something that we want to make sure that, so your idea of bringing folks who are already working to support adults make a lot of sense, because if anything, it just enhances their work, and in some cases provide more resources and support for them.
Is there, I know you talked about for going on to 4-year colleges, is there any reason why I can't focus this strictly in the 2-year programs?
No, I don't
In
think
other
so.
words, my workforce and my workforce area and my 2-year completion strategies, and incorporated into that for job placement in that area, which is what my 2 focuses are with my dual enrollment and my snap to work, is immediate employment. So it'd be 2 years or less.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I think part of the Lumina piece of this too is really looking at a lot of students of color, adults of color come in on the non-credit side of the house. We want to make sure that they have a smoothly articulated pathway into the credit side to keep earning that to the associate's degree. So I think the short answer is yes, absolutely. Again, given that we're in a pandemic, and that's where folks are again just trying to get back in the labor market or try to get a pay increase, but they want to keep learning, they need to keep learning, and so smoothing over that pathway so that they can keep going into that associate's program.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is the Lumina spiderweb of knowledge. We're incorporated into with stackable credentials, and we're wanting to roll that out in our dual enrollment and our staff to work program in entry-level certificates and entry-level job skills, and then transition them into the spiderweb of knowledge, and then get them into the associate's degree at the AAS level. And then if we can go beyond that, then help the student transition from there. But right now, that target of getting them into that first layer of the spiderweb.
Other folks thinking about their projects? And Kyle, you're ready to sign up, I can tell, which is awesome.
We've already got this initiative under and going, and all the resources I can bring to the table to help. Like I said in my comment, we're really going after what we call the invisible student. And since we took on this invisible student project about 3.5 years ago, our growth has almost tripled. During the pandemic, we grew. And it's an untapped market for higher education, and people need to become aware of the invisible student. And what you guys are doing is talking about the invisible student, and that's what we're trying to. We're looking for every resource we can to assist those invisible students.
Again, and as you saw in the chat, we're looking at about 25, 30 institutions to participate with this. Obviously, there will be a lot of conversations with you to identify the priorities. What are the issues on your particular campus? Getting to know you, getting to connect the different institutions, start creating the network. So that should happen fairly soon. The TA in itself, technical assistance, may start in the spring once we have created those cohorts. And again, it's going to move pretty fast. I think that we're excited, so I think that that excitement is going to carry us forward a lot faster. But we're pretty excited about that, about this. And the next question was from Dr. Robertson: what financial support is available and technical support provided?
So the technical support is really we're gonna organize this in a couple of ways. One is that when we lay the project out and look at our overall goals, what are the areas of consultancy or support that every institution could benefit from? And so we'll have some things that are just what we call shared consultancy for everybody to participate in together. And then we'll look at what are the specific needs as it relates to whether it's by region or strategy or individual institution. So the financial support doesn't necessarily look the same at each institution because it's really going to depend on what the institution needs. And we're focused on equity. So we'll make sure that there's equity in the process so that one institution is not, receiving all of the benefits and others are not. But I think that it's going to be slightly different. But the technical support, what it looks like is it might be having a content expert or a CCA fellow working specifically with your team to look at your policies and your practices and to revise things. It could mean that we need to support you supporting your team going to some kind of training and professional development because you see that they need capacity in that regard. With the data piece, we're going to really be focusing on the post-secondary data partnership is going to be a big part of this process. And if you're not familiar with that, Nicholas, could you drop the link in the chat? And so with the post-secondary data partnership, this is the data platform that's been created by the National Student Clearinghouse, and it allows institutions, states, and systems to be able to it gives a more robust data set that you can really disaggregate data in a more nuanced way. So if you have that, we're going to want to make sure that we're working with you to be able to optimize on what's there. If you don't have it, we want to talk to you maybe about the possibility of you adopting that. And if you have something else that you're using for your data, working with you and your team to make sure that that you're optimizing on the system you have, and just to make sure that we're helping to support your data needs.
Sorry to bug you. I got another question.
Sure.
Is there any reason why I can't have someone who's not an employee of the college be part of the team? I have a high school partner that she runs a career technical education center that I think would benefit a lot from this. Is it possible that I could ask her to set on to be part of the team?
Amber, go ahead.
Yeah, from Lumina's perspective, and I will share that we're coming at this from the adult learner perspective. So, but especially thinking about folks who can be equity champions in your community. There's a couple of reasons that we are wanting to integrate this into the project. One is thinking about how learners of color find these pathways is important to understand, and how they, from a recruitment perspective, but also, we could do everything right in building the educational pathway for employment, but we know that there's still wage discrimination. We know there's still occupational segregation and placement that happens. And so leveraging those equity champions to help even out those outcomes, and to help bring employers to the table to have a conversation about, again, we've graduated 30 graduates with the skill set you asked us to, but again, when we disaggregate the wage data, you're not paying our Black learners as much as you're paying the white learners, or you're not hiring them at the same rate. And there's, things that we were hoping those equity champions can help you with, because I know those are hard conversations for you all to have by yourselves with employers and with community leaders. So yeah, I think thinking broadly about who are some of those community leaders who might be exterior to your institution. But I think from crafting, a team, my advice might be, how central do they need to be tied into the full process versus how much you're pulling some of these folks in throughout. And my guess is that's something that CCA would want to kind of help you think through once you get into the details of the work. That's my initial reaction. But Nia, Nicholas, you may have things to add that I've missed.
No, I agree with what you said. I think that it makes sense in some cases, especially if the focus is very much on that. So I think that, but I think to Amber's point about like how central would that person be on your campus, if it definitely helps the connection with the employers, with or recruitment. Let's be honest. I think recruitment of adults is also going to be can be definitely one of the priorities that you're working with. So if that's what that's going to be one of the priorities going to be working on, having someone at the community level who can share, with the communication, can help craft the communication, help the recruitment, or help the connection with the workforce or K-12. Then I think to me it makes sense to incorporate that person on the team. Absolutely. And the same, I mean, if you have someone from the local workforce, if you already have someone that there's a chamber of commerce or something like that you have great connections with, that too is not a bad idea to bring in on the team, if not at the front end. But definitely, as the work progresses, we want to make sure that they are involved and that they are aware of what we're working on. And by we, I mean you and we, CCA Lumina and your institutions, so that how we can best support the learners and the graduates of your institutions.
And the only thing I'll add is I just want to reiterate that the process for us is about doing what's going to best support you all in the institution. I mean, clearly we have objectives and goals and deliverables, but we want to do what makes sense, which is why we're also having this very model like state and communities of practice, because we recognize that institutions are at different places. And even what you have the capacity to do within your institution is going to differ, even if you're working on the same thing, whether it's staffing or resources or whatever those things are. So, and CCA is a little hands-on in the sense that we're going to be involved in the process. So it's not as though we say, okay, here's your team and you don't hear from us for 6 months. Like, that's not the way it works. And so you'll have Chandra's like smiling because she knows. and so what's going to happen is that as you have your CCA liaison, whoever that staff member is, you'll get to really know them and say, this is what has come up as part of our process. We think it might be beneficial if we bring this person on to work with us. And we'll say, okay, let's talk through it. It makes sense. Okay, let's do that. So it's not that things are so rigid that you have to make a decision at the beginning and there's no opportunities for movement or change. We'll figure this out as we're working through it. The same thing with timelines. I think this is important for college campuses because we have a timeline, of course, being what benchmarks and dates we want to meet. But we also realize that we're in the middle of a pandemic and we have, we have natural disasters and all this stuff is happening and people get sick and all these things. So trying to figure out what's going to make sense for your campus. And sometimes that means we have to adjust timelines. The thing that we ask for CCA is we would appreciate if you are looking down the pike and you say, okay, my IR person just submitted FMLA and they're going to be out for 6 weeks, then just don't tell us 2 days before the thing is due that your person is out for 6 weeks. Just let us know, okay, we have this staffing thing that's happened and we need to move this date by a month. And we can figure out what that looks like because maybe there's something else that we have put, further down the queue that can move up while we're waiting for that piece. And so I think it's really just about conversation, letting us know. And everybody who's working on this project has worked on a college campus. So we all get it, and it's just trying to figure out how those things work. And then the other thing is about the politics. Like we're very in tune, I think, with how politics sometimes play a part of this. So sometimes people have to be included because it's going to make the most sense strategically. Then you can just let us know, this is what we're dealing with. And because if you're dealing with something like that, chances are we have worked with another institution that was working with the same type of dynamic, and we might be able to share something we learned from the other institution, with you. So I think the more you're able to share with us about what's going on your campus, the better we are able to support you along the way. Any other questions or thoughts? This has been great. Like, y'all have been really, really great. We appreciate it.
Sorry to keep asking questions.
Of course.
On the Survey Monkey, it states the deadline to submit applications is September 17th, 2021. It's actually December 17th, correct?
No,
I'm on it right now. I was going to fill it out real quick.
no, it should say September 17th.
It does say September 17th.
Yes, that's correct. Because
Okay.
this is so that we can confirm the 25 to 30 institutions. And
Okay.
so we need to know who they're going to be so that we can start putting people together and, matching CCA staff with teams and working on getting us moving. And then the project will run through 2023. Any other last thoughts or questions or comments, even Lumina, Nicholas? Okay. Well, I just want to end by saying to you all that we can't really tell you how excited we are about this project. And I think the opportunity for us to do amazing work is right in front of us. And we are looking to be able to create great partnerships with you all, and then also to help facilitate new partnerships across the institutions who participate. And I should say this also is that CCA is always looking at ways to leverage opportunities. And so as a part of this project, if we see that there are other things that we can partner you with or opportunities that could even enhance other things you're doing on your campus, you become our first group of institutions to say, hey, what about this? Do you want to participate in this? So we're just looking forward to everything that is like on the horizon. So thank you all very much for your time this morning. Nicholas, can you drop our email address? I'll put mine in there. If you need to email us for anything, feel free to do so. And that is it. We're able to give you back 9 minutes. Yeah, the webinar is going to be sent out for the webinar is going to be by tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thanks very much.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.